and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, the federal government implement the no work, no pay rule for public servants to carry out major review of health sector and insists monkeypox case yet to be confirmed. On day 2 of the 23rd Nigeria Economic Summit holding in Abuja, financial experts make case for repositioning of SMEs to play increased role in nation's economy. Federal High Court in Lagos orders final forfeiture of properties worth 3 billion naira linked to former Minister of Petroleum Resources Diezani Alison Madueke. And more than 150 people declared missing following wildfires in northern California's wine region, with at least 17 people confirmed dead.
On business news tonight, International Monetary Fund releases optimistic forecast on global economy, but warns of vulnerabilities to growth.
And in sports news, Heartland FC of Owerri gained promotion to the Nigeria Professional Football League after beating hosts First Bank of Lagos.
And from Abuja, northern leaders back power devolution to states in a meeting in Kaduna say region is not afraid of restructuring.
Following a plethora of strikes, especially by workers in the public sector, the federal government is set to implement the no work, no pay rule. This is one of the several decisions reached at the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari today in Abuja. The council also reviewed the suspected cases of monkeypox and other diseases in the country. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra reports.
The deliberations were based on the report of the Technical Committee on Industrial Matters set up in April of last year. Among its recommendations, the committee emphasized the need to implement the No Work, No Pay law as captured in the Trade Act.
The No Work, No Pay is not a rule, neither is it a policy. It is a law captured in the Trade Dispute Act of the Federation, Section 43 to be precise. Says that workers they have a right to disengage or remove their services from an employer if there's a breakdown in their discussions or negotiations. But for the period that the worker does so, the employer should not pay. And those periods are to be counted as non-pensionable times in a period of work.
Other issues are those of collective bargaining, job evaluation and tenure of union leaders in the country.
On the issue of tenure, we are not limiting any group to 2 years, 3 years. But what we are insisting that it will not be open-ended. You have to give us in your constitution a term limit for elected officers. If the association agrees that they want to do one single term, fine. 4 terms, fine. But it must be written down. It must be there in the Constitution.
The council is also worried that oftentimes the wrong people sign agreements with unions without recourse to the Salaries, Income and Wages Commission. It also considered a memo on the need to regulate the activities of deep water divers to ensure safety and competitiveness. On the residency training program by medical personnel, the meeting pegs its duration at 7 years. There is also a plan to look into private practice by medical doctors in the public service.
The law of the land does not allow any public officer to do anything other than farming. And so that committee will make appropriate recommendation to government on this important issue, which is of considerable interest to quite a number of Nigerians.
With regards to public health situation in the country, the government reassured the public that it is tracking all of them with possible confirmation of the suspected monkeypox or otherwise.
What is particularly significant is that many of the cases so reported do not fit into the classic prototype of monkeypox. But then we are trying to confirm before the end of today or early tomorrow. We should be able to confirm what exactly are we dealing with. Is it truly monkeypox?
From the presidential villa in Abuja, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
Chief executives of banking institutions and venture capitalists agree that there is great need for enhanced risk mitigation in the Nigerian financial services industry at a time when SME development is a focus of economic operators in the country. The financial experts say that up-and-coming entrepreneurs in the country must begin to look inward to break into larger markets across Africa and around the world. The Titans of Industry shared their views during a panel discussion at the 23rd Nigerian Economic Summit in Abuja. Our correspondent, Ajuri Ngalali, reports.
The floor to get some questions.
They command key economic institutions across sectors.
Nasri, you've had the perspectives of these personalities.
But here, they command the attention of up-and-coming entrepreneurs.
In Nigeria.
At a time when Nigeria's economic fundamentals are changing, budding entrepreneurs see opportunity and now tap from those who have excelled.
Complete startups who do not have any are not to do business, have the ideas and need the finances. I want to understand what you do.
I walked to the first bank and I put them to help me. The first thing I was told is you need to work for like 5 years, let us see your 6 months and everything.
During their deliberations, Titans of Industry share their thoughts.
You need to have a solid business case. Your finance has to be right. Your business plan has to be, sound. And a lot of entrepreneurs run into the problem of not complying to those things. And clearly, without that, you cannot move forward. So the energy is important, but also it's important to get things right from the start.
On the private equity side, how do we increase the percentage of funding, raising funds locally to be able to fund local enterprises? Might be a major thing you need to do to them.
Both the banks and the non-bank financial institutions, I think very often we're doing a very poor job of actually creating investable opportunities where we're waiting for well-baked investments. We bring the same criteria that we see in the Western world.
Especially listening to the very nice session.
Okay.
After the session, Group CEO of EcoBank, Ade Ayeyemi, says Nigerians must cooperate to secure competitive advantage in global supply chain networks.
I think the first thing is that they need to come together to create a cluster of companies. Because as a group, it becomes easier for them to be able to access financing. It becomes easier for them to be able to share facilities. It becomes easier for them to be able to get even dedicated power supply. So if they get all those things, then their transaction cost comes down. The bank is looking at them not as an individual, but as a member of a collective. And as we do that, then you see that they become more successful. And more so, they will start spurring each other on.
It's lack of access to affordable finance.
Though a massive market with gifted human resources,
so capital market as a place to actually source money is not there. And that is
investors note that policy continuity is a key to sustain and enhance the tempo of investment inflow in the country. Ajuri Ngalali, Channels Television News.
Take a further look at the steps towards boosting SMEs and other issues addressed at the ongoing Nigeria Economic Summit in Abuja. I'm being joined by the Director General of the NESG, Mr. Laoye Jayola. You're welcome to the news at 10.
Thank you very much.
Some have said that there seems to be what is now described as conference fatigue in view of many discussions on the way forward in terms of national developments. Now we're at another summit at the NESG. Would you say that discussions at this summit have impacted on policies of government?
Yeah, to a large extent, it has impacted. I mean, the conference is what we do annually, but in between conference, there are a number of things that goes on between the private sector and the government. I mean, just to tell you, last year at this conference, when we mooted the idea of Made in Nigeria, we then had told the government that we didn't have a plan. And so we worked on developing together the ERGP with all stakeholders And in between that period, we've been involved in how do we ensure effective implementation and monitoring, and they are listening to that. And in addition to that, again, we had challenged the National Assembly to come up with a couple of laws. Not only did we challenge them, under the auspices of NASBA, which is made up of NESG, MBA Section of Business of Law, we had engaged them in drafting a number of laws. 2 of them have been signed in the law, the movable asset law and the credit reporting law. I mean, they've been enacted, but there are a couple of them that we're working in. So there's a number of things that goes on in between summits. And so when you see us meet at summit like this, it's again to have large number of people partake in what we do. After the summit, we always distill these issues, and very many groups we then engage, ministries, departments, and you see a lot of public-private sector discussions amongst ourselves in the private sector and the government. We haven't gotten sufficient traction, no doubt about that. But again, we're engaging, and we believe we must continue to engage, because the private sector is a key stakeholder in the enterprise called Nigeria. And we all believe that we don't have to leave government alone. And if you look at ARJP, public-private partnership is a key element of that program.
So today's session centered on boosting the efforts of budding entrepreneurs. What difference do you think suggestions from the meeting will make in this regard?
Well, to a large extent, one of the things that have come up is that, well, we need to begin to see SMEs more in clusters. Because, the bulk of the employment generated in this country is through the MSMEs. In fact, about 34.1 million micro institutions exist in Nigeria. Yes, finance is their problem, but beyond finance, they have other issues. I mean, it's not wise for a micro establishment to go borrow money to buy a generator to fuel operation. So what we're trying to do is that let's get these people together in clusters, and if we get them together in clusters, they provide the environment for them to do business and do that very, very well. I have a typical example in what you see in the computer village in Lagos, and how much the renewable energy people have been able to provide renewable energy to the people, so much so that many of them who would otherwise have done businesses for 6 hours now can work for as long as 11, 12 hours. What that has done for them is that it's generated sufficient revenue for them and made them much more inclusive. So the discussion today centered on how do we get them together, and how do they as SMEs begin to work together as collectives, and then of course place the challenge for us to ensure that we have some guarantee schemes for them, just as the way we have for our Greek sector. How do we provide guarantees so that we can de-risk that sector and then allow capital to flow into that sector?
But you know, you also have to consider power and other infrastructure. So how do you go about providing these, addressing these issues in order to help SMEs thrive in the country?
Now, that's one of the things I did say. You know, happily, government realizes that one cap does not fit all. Before now, we all had insisted that, look, generate this power, pass them through the national grid, and then supply. Today, what the minister said is that we generate about 7,000. We can't even distribute all of us. So the challenge, therefore, and the opportunity is that how do we do captive power? So if the MSMEs are in a sector, it is easy for them to give them, if they are in clusters, it is very easy for them to have power that is made for them alone. And it's power, this power need not be in fossil fuel power generated. Renewables are available, but standing alone, there is problem. They may not be able to afford it, but when you put them together, they get that power, which is what we're saying. Beyond finance, you need to put these people together, give them powers in cluster, do skills development for them, help them in their accounting and the way they prepare their books, and then you prepare them to grow. And that will help with the issue of unemployment that we have in this country.
Mr. Laoye Jayola, it's been a pleasure speaking with you on the News at 10.
It's a pleasure.
In part two, after the break, more on the ongoing IMF World Bank Summit. Our business news editor, Bosun El-Rufai, who's covering the meeting, will be joining us in Washington, D.C. Please stay with us.